This podcast is a member of the Red 5 Network. For more Red 5 Network podcasts and content creators, visit bio.link/Red5.
And we are live. This is David with BLACKSPIRE Broadcast. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us. Tonight we have a fun one. We have a gentleman I've been trying to get on for quite some time. He is, by many of us in our Star Wars network, is kind of considered the father of our network. So it's kind of an honor to welcome and introduce Mr. Michael Hawes, a Starkiller.77 himself. So welcome, man. It's an honor.
Hey, David, how you doing, man? It's good to be here.
Good, man. No, thanks for taking the time to do this. I seriously appreciate it.
Absolutely. The stars finally aligned, and here we are.
Life happens.
So first off, congratulations on your podcast.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Man. You keep doing what you do, man. I love it.
No, it's awesome. You keep doing what you do, because that is what's impressive here. I just sit back and talk all day and hope people listen. So.
Yeah, it's fun, man. Star Wars is a good way to get out of this crazy world that we live in today, and
Amen.
And the friendships that have been made. Gabe, my brother, on our show Collection Wars. I mean, we've kindled a really nice, relationship. I consider him my brother, and so many people out there now are my family,
No, and Gabe is good people. I've had Gabe on, and I know him personally as well. So he's great people. I absolutely love him as well.
Yeah.
Well, what got you into Star Wars? Where does it begin?
It begins when I just had a birthday yesterday, as a lot of people know. So many
Happy belated.
Thank you so much. But so when I'm 53 now, I was 7 years old, and this story is kind of repeated so many times, and so many people out there in the community can relate. But, I was a late bloomer when it came to actually getting to see Star Wars. My mom worked quite a bit, and I wasn't able to, I wasn't going to the movies a lot like people. So there was a nice lady named Peggy and her son that in the apartment complex that, I used to play with and stuff. And they invited me to go see Star Wars. And, it was just, hook, line, and sinker, man. I never have seen, like so many people obviously haven't seen anything like that. And seeing that, that's where a lot of my inspiration came from, actually, as a 7-year-old. It's hard to believe, but there's so many incredible stories out there of what a simple movie can do to people and how it's changed. I mean, this sounds really corny, but it's changed the world in so many ways, and not just in film aspects, but, just what it has done to carry people on in their own way of looking at it. But, when I came home that afternoon after seeing Star Wars, I was Luke Skywalker, and I remember being pretty down because I really wanted to go to space. I was Luke, and I wanted to be Luke, and, and then the Kenner toys hit, right? And my first figure was R2-D2, and when I got that, it was like, damn, I wasn't like poor by any means. My mom busted her ass. She was both my mom and dad, and she worked a lot of late hours and stuff. But, as a kid growing up, I was pretty blessed. I was, the only sibling. I didn't have any brothers or sisters. But, it's weird because I never played with toys, but even early on, I just started collecting them and it was just a thing to get them all. I remember it was so hard to get Chewbacca. He was the hardest, original action figure.
I did not know that.
And then things started changing. Good things were happening in my mom's career, and where we were able to move from an apartment to a house, and things just got better for us. And as that happened, even going into high school, I had this 40-year-old virgin room at the age of 14, 17, and 18, and when everybody else was out partying and hitting the clubs that what the teenagers did and stuff, I was doing my Star Wars thing, and I was always afraid. I've said this in a few conversations, but I was always afraid that I was going to fall out of love of the toys. You know what I mean? And is this going to happen? Am I not going to like, to collect and do these kind of things? And I think I was, I would say maybe 1 out of 50, keep that. There's a lot that go back and they can find that inspiration that, oh, like even people that come in here that aren't necessarily collectors, but they'll see their toys that they had when they were a kid and how they light up and that little feeling that they have for that moment. We have all the time,
Right.
It's just a really, really fun thing, in my life. And I've been very blessed, and very humbled about, collections and doesn't matter how big or how small. I've never wanted to have, one of the biggest collections out there. I've just wanted, I like cool stuff, you know what I mean? And, through the community, I've been able to, create and inspire, and it's just been a blast.
Well, and inspiration is one thing that you definitely do, and this is the first time we've spoken pseudo face to face virtually. But man, I've watched your stuff for so long, and you do inspire people. And there is like a point you brought up, the nostalgia of the things you collect. Like you have created a world class collection. I think there it is worth stating that, because what you have is world class. So I commend that. It is an inspiration, and like you said, people come in there and they odds are you have something that they once had, and there's nostalgia and an emotion tied to that, and just going there probably brings tears to people's eyes because they remember something from 30 years ago that they, their mom threw away or whatever the case may be, and that's really cool. I mean, it's to me, seeing it from the outside, having never been there, it's very museum-like, and I think that's a really cool aspect. So you don't see that. You see a lot of what you see behind me,
Well,
well, of course, but that is something on a different level, and
well,
it is awesome.
First off, you're always welcome to the gallery, but I will tell you that 75% of the people that step up on this when the lights come on cry, and it's
I have
crazy.
no doubt.
It's crazy, and like you said, it has been people that aren't even big collectors, and it kind of like surprised me because I've known their personality when they see this, because it took a long time. Even my kids, I didn't try to keep them into Star Wars because, even my daughter Haley, it's sad because a lot of people know my girl now, that she's now 13, and she'd hate for me to say this, but just 3-4 months ago she was into Dungeons and Dragons, and I didn't want her to lose any of that kids in her, but I'm starting to see a teeter-totter, and it's like she's definitely not going to be into it. She'll always respect it, because obviously her mom's into the Barbie side of things, and then I'm into Star Wars, but it sucks because I was hoping she was like my last hope. You know what I mean? So now when my time comes, I'm gonna bury all this shit with me. So
Man, it's going to be a tomb like Egyptian style, because you got a lot of shit, man. That is, it's sad, but you know what? She'll come back to stuff, and I'm a parent as well, and I think there'll be nostalgia there for her too. She'll see D&D or she'll see Star Wars, and look, I don't like going down that somber hole, but when you're long gone, Star Wars will be her connection to you, and you know that. So
yeah, for sure.
That's awesome, man.
And that means a lot too. Thanks for saying that.
Of course. Well,
and I know it's so funny because I've been, lucky enough in my life. I've met a lot of. I'm not a starstruck kind of guy at all, except for one time in my life. One time, and everybody. It was George Lucas. I'll never forget. I've met Steven Spielberg. I've had one-on-one conversations with Spielberg. I've had one-on-one with a ton of actors. But anyways, that being said, though, there was just something about what George Lucas has done and inspired so many people, and Spielberg and so many other people have too. I'm just saying, but what he did, and it's funny because he respects them, but he doesn't care about all the, the autograph signings and all that stuff, and I get where he's coming from, but I'll tell you, there's just something about what he has done, that has helped so many people. It's crazy. It blows my mind actually that how, and it's weird because it's funny because me and my friend Joseph, we always joke about Trekkies versus Star Wars people, and we all know that Trekkies are a bunch of weirdos.
Absolutely.
But on a serious note, it's funny though how the community is. They're just all so cool and so humble, and
And
there's
they,
very few that aren't out, because when you meet so many people, but all in all, it's an unbelievable.
It is, and it is all walks of life. That's one
Yeah,
thing I'm learning. We find that there's common ground and mutuality in Star Wars, and I like that because that was
yeah,
one thing that I struggled with. I was in the military, and then I was a cop, and then I got medically retired, and I had this love of Star Wars, but it was in the closet because in those environments, that was definitely not a cool thing, and
yeah.
I kind of found it, going through like how George Lucas was an inspiration to you, meeting him, you were starstruck. For me, it's if I had that opportunity, he indirectly drugged me out of dark places, and he just doesn't know it. And I'm one of a million, right? And so it's so cool. It's just
Yeah,
so
it's
cool.
great. It's really crazy that one person can do so much. I apologize.
No, you're good. You're totally
Yeah,
good. But
yeah, but it's yeah. I'll never forget. It was weird. I was at a Star Wars celebration, and a lot of people know about this history of when I was 20 years old, getting arrested on Skywalker
I
Ranch.
was hoping we'd go there.
Yeah, and we could go there. But that being said, though, it was so many years later. It was in Chicago, and I was talking to Andy Gutierrez from the Star Wars show, super gal, and we stayed close touch, and we just happened to be on side stage talking, and we were just talking about just Star Wars and other things in life, and then all of a sudden some of the production crew started running around and everything, and because it was celebration, there's a lot of people, but there wasn't
Right.
anybody at the stage at that time. So
Mm-hmm.
I was right up stage talking to her, and then she's like, "Oh, I gotta go. I'm sorry. No problem. I'll talk to you in a bit." And my wife and Haley had, knew I was going to be talking to her, so they went and got something to eat. Well, she gets up and everything and she's going, and then uh, Filoni, I can't remember, comes over there out of the blue, and he says, "Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. George Lucas." And just because, I mean, when he's ready, he's ready.
Of
Nobody
course.
even expected. So George came out on the stage, and then Mr. Harrison Ford, which I didn't even.
Didn't even care.
I was like, "There's Lucas there," and I'm like,
Right.
"Dad!" No, I'm just kidding. I was like, "It's me."
Yes.
But it's funny because you can see me in the video because it went live, and then all of a sudden there was, literally thousands of people around the stage, because they were telling their quick stories and stuff, and I was just like in awe. And my wife missed it because she was over there. I wonder what's going on. And there was George Lucas there, but
You've posted it on social media, right?
I did.
I think
I
I've
did.
I've seen that. Yeah,
Yeah,
still
yeah.
of it.
It
But
was
yeah.
like a little circle of me, little goofy.
Yeah, you circled it too.
Yeah, and I'm not that guy. I'm telling you, I don't.
No, but that's a
I've been in,
moment,
I've been
right?
in one long line for Mark Hamill, never again,
Hmm.
to get an autograph. But I just, I respect people that do that, but I'm not that guy, right?
Right.
And but I just, you know, I hope that I will have made a difference in the community and inspired people in a way where they maybe see something that I've done or something that I've talked about or experienced, and they can take that experience or idea and do something with themselves that's really fun, and they're excited, whether it's a weekend project that they learned and they're doing it and they're excited because that's what this is all about, right? You know what I
Absolutely.
mean? So, but
And so
we're
much has come out of that, like
mm,
obviously you are into modeling that is at a much higher level than me, but I would love to get into the studio scale stuff because that stuff is so fascinating.
yeah, that's a I mean,
But I want to hear the Skywalker Ranch.
okay. So let's start with that. So by the way, if you want to take the time, I have like a 20-minute good version of this on my Starkiller.77 YouTube site.
And all that'll be in the description at the end.
Yeah, and that was actually my favorite video to date that I've done because I was just telling the story.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, it was just I had been up in LA and I had lived there, from Texas is where I'm from, and I tried like so many people to get out there and get into the industry, and I wanted to be a cinematographer, a cameraman, and then maybe a director later on. But I experienced so many things in the year that I was there, but I was just homesick. I was ready. I wasn't used to the California environment, the way that, respectfully, the people look at you, because there's so many walks of life that live in that place, and nobody trusts anybody. So saying, "Hey, how you doing?" They look at you like, "What do you want?"
Right.
I just wasn't used to that. So, after sneaking on sets, I worked on a lot of really cool movies, some really incredible stories that I'll never forget, and friends that I met working in some of the film industry side of things. Um, but when I decided to go ahead and come back to Texas, when I got back here, it was all of a sudden like slow motion. It was like, God, you were there and you were doing it, and now you're back home, and now what? What are you going to do now? So I was like, you know what? I don't even know what gave me. I didn't have a whole lot of money, but I was like, you know what? I want to try to get a job over at Skywalker Ranch. So I had still had a California driver's license for the year that I lived there, and anyway, just out of the blue, with no plan, no interviews, I just thought I'm gonna go and do what I do. I was very successful at sneaking on sets. I was very successful at doing that, and it's funny because I never knew Spielberg did stuff like that, and a few other people, but I was really good at it. I met security guards over at Amblin, and it was Lorimar Studios at the time that Sony bought out. But I got to know the security, and then they would let me in, and then Joe and the Volcano, and that's how I got into arachnophobia, working on the set, and just Steven Spielberg's director's chair was there. He was never on the set, but just experiencing this stuff. I was doing it. But then I just out of the blue just said, you know what, I'm going to California. I'm going to go one more time. So I fly into San Francisco, and I rent a car, and it's a brand new car with like 250 miles on it. And I've never been to San Francisco before, and it's a crowded place. And, this was before you could, Google and do any of that stuff. So I had to write the directions down, and I knew it was over the Golden Gate Bridge, and just went out and started turning into the real hilly, green side of, San Rafael.
Right.
And I saw Lucas Valley Road, and I was like, holy shit, that's a street,
Right.
I took the exit and drove up the hill. It was real windy, and that's the first thing I did when I landed. I mean, I was already there, like an hour and a half later. I go, and when I'm getting ready to pull in, the gate just opens, and I'm like, holy shit,
it's meant to be.
I've got this going on.
Yeah.
So I pull in there, buddy, and I go up, and there's a security tower, a good couple hundred yards in. And I remember most of all out of that, I thought I could be sly, I always say this, like Eddie Murphy in Beverly Hills Cop. He's always bullshitting his way in.
Right.
But it didn't work for me. But I was trying, and he goes, the guy, he seemed kind of baffled, like, okay,
You're actually doing this right now.
now you flew in from Texas, and you don't have an appointment, and because I just told him, hey, I've got an internship, I'm looking at an internship, and I was making that up too, to work in the model shop, and I didn't know that the model shop wasn't there. It was somewhere else.
You picked the wrong one.
Yeah, you know what? You know what? This is the first time I'm going to say this, in this story, is that if I would have known what I know now, I could have I guarantee I would have, you know what I mean?
You'd have been in.
Yeah. John Knoll guy, I mean, I don't know if you've heard his story.
I have not. I know who he is, obviously, but I have not.
Yeah. So he same thing. He was on a business trip with his pop, and while he was there, he was underage. He looked up, in the phone book, and found Industrial Light and Magic, their deal, and got to go tour, the place. And it was Lauren Peterson who gave him the tour.
That's right. That's in the documentary as well. That came out on Disney Plus. Right. Right.
And shit. So I mean, and then look what he did. He created some amazing in Rogue One,
Photoshop,
yeah,
all the above, right? Yeah,
exactly, dude. So, but it didn't work out. Where they were like, look, I'll take your information down. Do you know where you're staying? And again, this was before cell phones, so I didn't know quite sure where I was going to be staying. So when I left there, I was really down. I was like, man, And but the guy he was very cool. The security guard was really cool. And when I got to the hotel, I called them from that hotel and gave them my room number. And not 10 minutes later, I got a call back. And whoever it was really like, look, I'm so sorry that you made the drive, but we can't let you in. And I'm like, I understand. And I just, I wanted to, and they're like, I understand. And they were just, but sorry. I wish I could tell you, David, that they said, come back up. We're going to let you in. Don't say anything, but George Lucas is here. You might even get to run it. Nothing.
Right.
So I'm sitting there and I'm like, this is ridiculous. I can't believe it. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going back. I'm going in. So I go out and I leave all my stuff in the hotel room. And I go and I had like $6 or something cash, just happened to have in my shorts. I was wearing shorts. And when I was getting up there, it was still daylight. And I passed where the main gate entrance was, and I went up probably like 100 yards or so. And this is in the redwood forest for those people that are listening to this story that don't know. It's in the redwoods, so they're huge ass beautiful pines out there, size of your car, And I had this little car and I ditched it, where you could barely even see it. And then I went and I found the corner boundary line of the ranch, and I hopped the property next to it, and it went up a hill, and I went up that hill, and I could see down pretty good on the ranch, and I could see the fire truck driving around, and didn't know much about it at that time, and so jumped the fence, and it's starting to get. I mean, it's still daytime, but the sun is starting to set, and I get down and I look in, and cars are coming by. Most people, I'm sure, are leaving the ranch. And I have no idea where I'm going, but I do see that beautiful Victorian style home that I didn't know anything about at the time. I didn't know it was a library. I didn't know any details whatsoever, right? I just know that I'm on the ranch now. I'm on the property, and I'm getting closer down to the bottom of this bowl that it's in. And I've got to cross this main street to get to the other side. And when I did that, I found myself trapped in this little like garden thing that had these little boxes. And I think I told this in the story, I can't remember, but there were some bees there. There's those little bees. And I was like, I didn't realize it. I didn't get stung or anything like that, but I jumped up on those because there was a vehicle coming. I wanted to get over the fence, but I couldn't. So I kind of got down, and I knew I was going to have to go around. But there was a lake right there. And you had to get around to go over this bridge to get around to get to that house. So I was like, screw it. This is kind of a fast version, but I'm like, screw it. And I walk around, and I just like walk like I'm,
You mean it. You're there for a reason.
Yeah, I'm going, And I go across the bridge, and there's I don't know for sure, but I don't think at that time there was really security cameras. There might have been. But I don't think there. Maybe just like in the front gate. Now you can see like red lasers and shit all over that place.
Oh, I have no doubt.
But so I went across there, and there was a beautiful building up on the left, and you could see the grapevines up and down. It was really, really cool, and it was starting to get dark, and a guy was coming down those stairs, and he just sees me, and it's almost like he was waiting for me. And he's like, "Hey, how you doing?" I go, "Pretty good. How are you?" And he goes, "You work here?" And I said, "Not yet." And he goes, "Why don't you come over here?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And he goes, "What's your name?" And I said, "Michael." And he goes, "Michael Hawes?" And he knew my name. And I'm like, "Yes, sir." It's crazy. I guess I got put on alert after that weird.
You made a list.
I made the list. So he goes, "Just stay right here." And sure enough, man, all the fire truck and all these little pickup trucks all were racing over to this spot, and they all get out and kind of hover around me. And, I wasn't in the mood for any bullshit, to be honest with you. I was pretty upset. It's not like, and there was people there that are probably bored off their mind every day, all day, and then there's this trespasser,
Something to do for them, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, one of them was real cocky. I remember just wanted to take his head off, and I just sat there. I just felt, man, and that guy that called all those people that I saw, he said, "Would you like to go into the building?" and I could see up in the glass. I could see Yoda in there and stuff, and I wish I would have said, yeah, if you don't mind, because it was getting cold and I was in shorts.
Right.
But I said, it's okay, no, thanks. And then they started asking me, did you get into any of the buildings? And I said, no, that wasn't my intention. And they go, well, how come you came back? And we already told you. And I said, I understand, but I just was hoping, so it was just kind of weird to them, So sure enough, a police car pulls up and shocked me, to be honest with you. But I was so numb, I didn't even,
Right.
And I was just sitting there, and then all of a sudden, the cop gets out, and he comes up to me, and the guy looks at me, and he goes, okay, Michael, just want to let you know that we are, we can't have trespassers, and I'm sure this was something innocent, but we can't take that chance, and we're going to press charges, and you're going to be arrested right now. And I wanted to cry, and I just, they put me in cuffs. I didn't cry. And the cop, super cool, sat me in the back seat. And then he talked to this freaking guy while I'm in handcuffs for probably a good 30 minutes, before he got in the car. And then when we were leaving, he said, do you have any, where's your license and stuff? And I said that, it was actually that I had put in the car. And so I just had that $6 on me. And he was like, well, look, I'm not going to have it towed. It's going to be there. But we're going down the hill. So he did take me to the car. He got out, went in there and checked it out, take that back. So he gave me my license. He gave me that. And then he said that he's not going to tow the car. I'm like, thank you. So anyway, when we're going down the hill, we get into the police station, which it was almost on the bottom of the hill, wasn't too far. And I remember them putting me in this real tiny cell, and they were in there talking. I could hear them talking. Oh, this guy was at George Lucas's place, and they were just in there, and I just sitting in the jail. And so it comes about 12 o'clock in the morning, and they let me go. They let me out. So when I'm leaving there in the middle of the night, it's super cold outside, and I go out and I just start walking, back up the hill. And this would have taken me probably a day to get there walking. And as I'm walking up the hill, this guy stops real fast, and he's all crazy. He's like, hey, you need a lift? And I said, yeah, if you don't mind, right up there. He goes, hop in. And I hopped in, piece of shit ass little truck, hippie dude, and driving. And I tried to explain to him to get up on top of that hill what happened, if he wouldn't mind. And I told him, I've got, this $6, I'll give it to you if you just give me right up this. And then he's like, all right, I'll give you. And anyways, he's just talking to me. And as we're getting up there, it's dark. They don't have lighting. It's not lights up there in the forest, so you couldn't see anything. And by the time, we were like going real slow, and I think he was getting concerned, like, am I going to kill him or something,
Right,
So
right.
he's like, well, you got to go. And I'm like, well, thank you. And I gave him the cash that I had. And that dude left me in the dark, dude. Drove
Just
off.
gone.
Yeah, but I knew, because I was right by the ranch door, and there wasn't a lot of lighting that I can remember. But I just remembered, it was up a little bit. So, I literally could not see my hand in front of my face.
Wow.
So, I was just making my way. And sure enough, I found the car, and I hopped in the car. The lights came on when I opened the door. And he left the keys in there for me, the cop. He could have had that thing towed.
Of course.
A rental. That'd have been a nightmare.
Oh, of course.
And so I got the car, went back to the hotel, went to sleep, and I was supposed to stay for like 3 days. And that morning I had found a flight out that afternoon. I wanted to just come back to Texas. I was beat, and I wanted to come back. Well, on the way out, as I was driving back to San Francisco, I'm on the highway, and I see Lucas Valley Road, coming up on it. And it's one of those like last minute, veer off
Right.
kind of thing. And up the hill I'm going, dude. There's just, they can't know that I'm not crazy, you know what I mean? And so I go in there, the gate opens again, and I pull up to the deal, and before I know it, buddy, I'm talking, there was I didn't care. I didn't care. I was just like, you guys got to know, if you're going to arrest me again, but I want y'all to know that this isn't my intentions. And, I just wanted to, it was innocent. Well, the ranch foreman came up there, and I don't know if he's even alive anymore, to be honest with you, but I will tell you that that man was the coolest, and he took me away from all these other people, and he was the boss. He was in charge, you know.
Right.
He says, what's going on? And that's when I broke down. I feel it right now telling you the story. I'm like, man, look in my car. I had some scripts that I wrote. You know, I didn't know about unsolicited material, and
Sure, sure.
you know, people can't, you know, but you know, and he goes, look, we've had people that have tried to get in here, and we've had death threats. We had a lady come in here with a knife before to kill George Lucas. I mean, there's all, and you can understand. Um, and I got it, and I understood, but I wanted to let them know that, look, I know it's crazy what I've done, but I'm not crazy. You know what I mean? I'm just, you know, when I want something, I'm a go getter, and I want to be part of it so bad. And he says, look, when you get back home, I want you to write an apology letter, and you send that apology letter, and which a good friend of mine wrote that for me, and who's recently passed on, and it was a great story. I mean, just the apology. I wish I had that
Right.
apology letter. You know, he nailed it, and they dropped the charges, and that was that. You know, so it's fun to talk about now, and it's you know, not many people. And then later on, that movie, what's that show came out? There was a movie where they all go up to Skywalker Ranch.
Oh, yeah, I know what
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
talking
yeah.
about.
Whatever. But you know, they're like, there's the Kremlin, there's the White House, and there's Skywalker Ranch. And I'm like, yeah, I know, I love it. That was
Yeah.
fanboys.
Yep. That's
Yeah.
it.
So, but anyways, you know, I was there at the beginning and did all that fun stuff. But you know, it taught me a lot. But I'll tell you what, when I came back here, I was more motivated than anything to get into the film industry. I've directed feature films. I've met a lot of really cool people in the industry. And most importantly, everything that I wanted back then, I have now, David. You know, and I mean, I'm able to, within reason, do the things that I want to do in life. I've never wanted to be a famous person. I just wanted to be a part of it, like so many people had the chance to be. And I respect them. You know, it's just things happen for a reason. Sometimes they don't. And I don't understand sometimes why they don't happen. You know, but at the same time, I look at, if that wouldn't have happened, maybe I wouldn't have my kids nowadays. You know, I wouldn't have had. You know, so there's so many
Right.
different ways to look at things. And you know, I'm blessed, and I'm building $1 million standalone, you know, restaurant that's going to be themed to keep that nostalgia going, and for it to live on in generations to come. So, you know, all of our friends and viewers will get to go and experience something, you know, and have like that movie experience. And
It's
I
part
feel
of the
like,
story.
yeah,
Right.
and I'm getting, this is stuff that wouldn't have probably happened, you know, and I'm
No.
more excited about that than anything right now.
Right, because your life would have went down a completely different trajectory,
It's
had you
crazy.
been working with them, it's
You never know what
things are meant
happens.
to happen the way they're meant to happen.
Yes,
I do believe that.
you know, there's a lot of people that look back on their life and say, I wouldn't change anything, you know, and the only thing that I would ever change would be the time spent with my mom. You know, my mom was my life and my inspiration, and I just hope that she knew it before she left. And I want to be
Right.
clear to let you know that I told her that, you know, and, you know, I just wish, and this is kind of nerdy too, and I'm getting kind of
This is a Star
weird.
Wars podcast, my friend. We're
Yeah,
about as nerdy as it comes.
yeah, yeah. And this is kind of weird, but the Force,
Mhm.
you know, you know how, you know, you got Ben and Yoda, and I want to know that my mom is my Force, you know,
Right.
ghost. She's my Force ghost, and you know, I talk to her every single day, and I know she was proud of her son, you know, and
Absolutely.
you know, and I want to leave a mark when I'm gone. You know, I want to know that, you know, I've made some kind of a difference in someone's life, if whatever that may be. But you know, and I'm not just saying through having a big Star Wars collection, but just experiences, you know, and
Your Star Wars collection is an experience with it. But all the content you put out, these things that people can go and find, like,
yeah,
I'm an up and coming pseudo artist, this second chance at life for me. I'm trying to figure out what I want to do, and art is that, and I'm very
good for
interested in
you.
models, and that's why I've sought you out. And these are conversations I'd love to have offline, but You know what I mean? And it's like
Yeah.
indirectly, you're inspiring people. So that is a mark you will leave behind.
Thank you. Thank you. So, thanks for allowing me to share that story.
Well, of course. And you know what? You're not the only one with these. It's a difficult concept to wrap into a few words, but with Force Ghosts and things like that, I love Star Wars far more than what's on screen. It's what goes on in my mind, and I'm a very critical, deep thinker, and I love the mythology, and I love the biblical aspects of it, and I think a lot of that does tie to reality. I really do.
Yeah. It's weird, right? It's like I'm not a Bible pusher.
I'm not either. No.
And I have no problem with religions, and I do believe that there's something out there in this world. I look at the trees as nature is God to me, and I know that you got to give back. Whether I just our world is just crumbling, and I hope God, there's just so many ways I want to put this, but time is when people want to know what is the secret to happiness, and what is, I think, in my humble opinion, and I'm just now finding this out at the age of 53, but it's the time. It's we're always looking into the future of what we can do or what we're going to do, but it's the moment that you're living at that point in time that is so important, right? Because you always say, well, tomorrow I'm going to do this and this is what I'm going to do, but you're living in the moment, and that is guaranteed. Tomorrow's not guaranteed. So that's why it's so important that you live those moments, and because there's going to be a time where those moments are going to be gone and you're not going to get them back. And George Lucas just had a thing that I listened to the other day, and it was just kind of weird how he said that, and I was like, man, it's true. What he
speaks to you.
Yeah, it's weird, but love your family, man, and just no matter what, just let that family know, what they mean to you. It's important to me, and it's life changing when you lose someone like me losing my mom. That was, she's always in my life, and all of a sudden she's gone.
She's gone.
And God, that's the worst thing. Waking up knowing that. I feel now because I was taking care of her, having to visit her all the time at this living home that she was at, and I feel sometimes that I need to go see her, and it's like, now I'm wanting to go revisit where we lived when I was a kid, and it's crazy. I've got, I don't know if people out there have done that, but they, you go back into your childhood, like this is where I lived. I lived in these apartments, and that's where I got my first Star Wars figure, in these apartments, and I remember as a kid playing on the swing set, and it was just, I don't want to lose those memories because it's, So
I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you, David.
I know that was relatively recent, even though we haven't spoke. We just know so many mutual people. But I'm very sorry.
Thank you for that. And I think what's a really sad thing is that the kids that we have today, our children today, I think it's so important to try to inspire our kids, not about Star Wars, but that it's okay to play with toys. It's okay to get on your bicycle and ride down the street, get your hands dirty. That stuff is unheard of now.
It is.
I just can't even believe it, So
no, things are very different.
That's what I do. I just, I do my thing, and
But your thing's an inspiration, my friend. Your thing is an inspiration.
Thank you.
And that's a great way to segment into the next thing, and that's your thing, which I think is right now is studio scale modeling, if I'm not wrong, along with Dark Side Pizza, along with your collection.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
Right now it's the DeLorean.
I want to hear about that. The Wampa, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah. So because I know this is your subject right now, let's talk about studio scale models. So I get so many people trying to contact me about studio scale modeling, and there's good news and there's bad news when it comes to studio scale modeling. It's kind of like what I'm experiencing on the Back to the Future DeLorean, trying to find the proper replica parts. It's such an underground, especially 5 years ago it was. Studio scale modeling has been around since, obviously since way back, but I could tell you in the mid-90s is when it really took off. And 10 years ago, it's hard to believe, but 10 years ago, studio scale models were hot. But it was before, a lot of the computer stuff, and, a lot of these guys were known as underground model builders, and, you know, everyone was in search um, for, how can I put it, actual, real pictures, which was very rare at the time, to replicate the exact studio model.
Mm-hmm.
And we've come so far since then. But when I'm talking about the good and the bad, so with the studio scale models, when I found out about it, I was just shuffling through YouTube, and I came across Kurt Kuhn's site. And those of you who don't know Kurt Kuhn, I love this guy to death. He is one of the biggest inspirations when it comes to studio scale models. He has done nothing but positive, and he created a site called Modeler Miniature Magic. And it's a site that's dedicated to studio scale modelers, whether you're wanting to get into it like you, David, or builders. There all aspects of modeling can be found, and it's a positive site. So, sure, there's a guy like the Jason Eatons and the Mike Salzos that are absolutely amazing builders, and you see their work. And then you've got somebody like you and me, David, that build a model. Well, it might not be at the beginning on the Jason Eaton level, Steve Neeson level, but when this thing is sent to Kurt Kuhn and pictures to be put on Modeler Magic, to Kurt, it's one of the best things he's ever seen. He's such a humble guy, and he just makes you feel like $1 million, and it keeps you going, and so stepping back, when I found his site, I was able to reach out, and unfortunately it wasn't him that I found first. It was a gentleman, Randy Cooper. And I ended up purchasing his original Randy Cooper Sandcrawler. And then I was introduced to Steve Neeson. And then from there, Kurt Kuhn. And then I met these, when I was introduced to Mark Elkins and Mike Salzo, everything changed. Relationships were bonded, and the trust was there. And holy shit, man, I have just been crazy collecting studio models, and I'm pretty lucky because my goal is to have, I'm trying to have get all of the, the original trilogy. When I say original, Star Wars, Empire, and Return, I'm trying to get all of the models, in my collection.
Wow.
And I'm not too far off now.
That's impressive.
And we're building a studio scale room here by the gallery that's going to be just, where we have the 8-foot Star Destroyer, the 9.5-foot medical frigate.
Mm-hmm. And you finished both of those relatively recently, right?
So those were Jim Krevling did the medical frigate, and Mike Salzo and Mark Elkins did the. I'm like the director, the guy that. So, and I just came in. I'm the guy that makes it all come together, kind of thing,
So I saw those videos. You had them posted not terribly long ago.
Yeah, and there's full credit given to all those people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't take credit for any of that stuff. So just I'm like all of us. But so that being said, with the studio scale models, I started doing a couple of videos, and my first video that's had, thousands and thousands of hits. It let me know that it's a cool video, but when I did that video, I was clueless about studio scale models. It's still a fun video to watch, even though I'm not a know-it-all. And there's a few handful of people out there that'll watch it, and they'll give me a thumbs down, and they'll badmouth like I don't know what I'm talking about. And those are the people that are just bad for the community altogether.
I get them in the show. I
Man,
understand.
it's crazy. And the whole thing is you got to keep doing what you do, and know that there's going to be those keyboard warriors out there that are just unhappy in life, and they're not about inspiration, and there's so many times I wanted to tell my piece, and very rarely will I ever say
Of
something.
course.
When I do, I'm pretty pissed, but I will just simply say that some good things are happening in the studio scale world right now, and what it is 3D printing. So
I'm sure it's a game changer.
Yeah, it's a major game changer. Me personally, I am not against 3D printing, um, but still, I want to know like all of my models are kit bashed models or made off of an original kit bashed piece um, in my collection. Will I buy 3D models? Absolutely. Have I bought them? Yes. And that would be the Mando ship. I got that one, and that was a 3D print.
The Razor Crest or the
No,
N1
yeah, the
Starfighter, the
that's
N1 from the Boba Fett.
that's
Book of Boba
exactly
Fett.
right.
Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, that was in Boba Fett. That was the
It
best
was.
series out of the Boba Fett, right?
Yeah.
So, but people, there's people out there like Michael at NYC who's really um, come through with flying colors with these models, and even though they're not studio scale models, they're close and they're relatively cheap, respectfully speaking, um, and it gives people out there that don't have $30,000 to $50,000 to spend on a model, a chance to own a piece of history that's kick ass,
Oh, absolutely right.
So, but it's been real frustrating when I have certain people reach out to me asking, how do I start and where do I start? Because I tell everybody, I had somebody reach out a little while ago they saw my Yoda diorama and they want to do the same thing. And, any pointers and watch videos, look up, videos on, just different type of environments and just get inspired that way and just start doing it. You won't know until you do it and learn from
Right.
it. I learned on my own, and it just worked out. And there's things that I'm still working on with the R2 Loop Yoda diorama, where I was like, I just didn't like it, and now I'm loving it. It's almost where it needs to be.
It's
And
coming together.
yeah, and it's just those are the things that I really love. I love taking on little projects like that, but and I just have too many projects going right now. I've got a life-size probe droid. I've got a smelter droid 88 that I built and was fantastic and fell and busted in a million pieces. Did you hear about that?
I've not.
Yeah.
I feel for you.
Oh, it sucks. But
We'll just steal the Galaxy's Edge one. That's fine.
Oh, right. I like mine better, to be honest.
Yeah, you made it.
I'll tell you what, though, it's a lot more fragile, though. But
we don't know. Push that one over and see what happens.
Yeah, I got a lot of inspiration from that one at Galaxy's Edge.
I bet. I mean, you can see it and it functions and moves and
yeah, because I was almost done with mine when I got to see that one, so it was exciting.
Yeah. I have no doubt. That's awesome. That is so cool. And now I want to step back just a second, and I'm sure it's a hard term to define because with a lot of scale models, there's 1-to-1, 1-to-6, 1-to-12, whatever. What is studio scale?
So studio scale, it's a good question. So, for example, like a 124 scale model, this is a 124 scale TIE fighter. When the ILMers built these models, they weren't building to certain scales. They didn't care if the TIE bomber that wasn't, a 124 scale on film, you couldn't tell, you didn't know. It just happened to be the size that they built these models. But so it's just a different size scale. Like the 124 is a certain size. Like for example, the medical frigate, that's a 1 in 144 scale. So like this pilot right here at 124 scale would stand, about I'd say about a little over 2 inches, where a 1 in 144 scale is about a half inch.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So, that's what that pretty much is. So now that being said, though, there's a lot of times like I have this Randy Cooper sands crawler here, and it looks like it would be a studio scale model, but it's not an accurate studio scale, which means it was not shot, at the scale it was in the film. Does that make sense?
Okay, it does. Yes.
So the studio scale, 124 scale, was shot accurately in the film. The Death Star that I have here is a fantastic Death Star. I had the opportunity to build in the original 3 foot, and I wish now that I would have, but I love what I have. It's an accurate Death Star. It's accurate to the original model within reason, but it is not a true studio scale 3 foot. It's a 2 foot.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's just all about kind of lineage. if you're doing that tie, for instance, you got to classify it as studio scale. It has to be the same scale that was previously done, or not quite.
Not necessarily. It's just up to you.
Mm.
What do you want in your collection? Do you care? I mean, knowing that this is a studio scale model, do you care if it's a studio scale model, or would you be happy going to Hobby Lobby or Michael's and finding
or a Bandai or whatever the case may
Bandai
be.
that's unbelievable detailed? You know what I mean?
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah, and these are just, and it's funny because I do have accurate studio scale models, right? But some of them are a lot more accurate than others, and a lot of things vary, and that's on the artist. And the artists that I work with, I like the artists to be themselves, and I think that's what they appreciate about me, is that I want them to build it the way they would build it, not how Lauren Peterson built it, because I don't care about that. You know what I mean? I don't, but I will tell you, like, if I lay down so Mark Elkins did my gold leader. If you see, if you go to Modeler Magic and you look up Michael Hawes and you see some of my studio scale models earlier on, you'll see my gold leader is spot on. I don't care how picky you want to get picky with the original. It's like, I mean, it looks like it's the one out of the picture, and
Right.
he just killed it. But I don't necessarily care that it's that accurate, because let's be real, 99.99% of people that come in here, whether this is a 1/124 scale or a 1/144 scale, that they don't know, and they're still able to experience something really cool.
It's a TIE fighter, right? It's a very nice TIE fighter.
Yeah, it's a badass TIE fighter.
Right.
They don't know what cold shade is, or does this one have cold shade or not, and what's all that stuff. That's the fun for certain particular builders, that mine, I want to hunt down the cool shade. And for example, this is kind of getting off topic, but I said it on our show, Gabe and I our show the other day, that I've been really frustrated because for the Dark Side Brick Oven Pizza restaurant, I'm trying to recreate. I was inspired. Lee Batten had sent me an Instagram of this DeLorean that was crashed. It looked like into the clock tower, and it was in a bar in Chicago. And when I saw that, I was like, holy shit, I got to have that. I've got to have that. But you can't just order one,
No.
And so, I went through, okay, I got to do that. I mean, you can't have this restaurant that I'm opening and not have that, right? So I had to go through finding the original DeLorean parts. I went to DMC of Houston, which was the original DeLorean, that stands open today, and there's one in California. And I was able to get all original pieces and parts for the original DeLorean car. And that was a fun trip. I went by myself, and I was able to piece all that together. I've got a fabricator that's fabricating it on. I posted on the Instagram groups. Right. And then, but now it's putting together the time machine prop replica parts for this thing. And if you remember, anybody that knows the DeLorean, you don't notice anything on the front of that DeLorean. It's all the crap that's on the back. And trust me, there's a lot. So that being said, I'm like, crap, how am I going to get these parts? It's already, it's kind of like in the studio world. Everyone, are trying to like find certain parts, and it's hard to find those people that know, but once you're in, you're in. And some people are so damn secretive that it's ridiculous. But I can only imagine. Tell you, that's how it's been with the DeLorean. And just today, David, I found one of the main builders that is in the community today that is very in touch with Bob Gale, the writer of Back to the Future. Super cool guy. His name is Bruce. And it's not cheap, but he's going to be putting together all of the rear end prop replica pieces, and there's a ton of them. So I'm going to have a damn close, not exact, but I mean, 90% close.
DeLorean from the Back to the Future.
Back to the Future original one, by the way.
That's so awesome.
Part 2 sucks. Anyway,
right.
But anyway, so
that's so cool, because you take that concept of accuracy and much like what Gabe says with lineage, how important that is, and you're doing that, and you found it with the DeLorean all the way back to the manufacturer. So that's cool. Yeah. And obviously the writer you just said, so it's even crazy.
And what my goal is, and is, and I'm just going to say it on this show, is my goal is to have Bob Gale at our restaurant on our grand opening.
Wow.
And I am so excited on what we're doing with this DeLorean. And there's gonna be a time coming up shortly where I'm not going to be sharing any more of what we're doing because I want to make a real big Shazam.
Nice reveal, yeah.
Yeah, when we open up. But I just love sharing this ride with the community so much, our community, my family. And it's just fun, it's a blast. And to be able to in my life, to be able to work on these things and do these really cool things, that's going to do so much for so many people. People from all around the world are going to be coming to this restaurant.
Yeah, and I'm going to make a goal of getting out there myself, but it is one of the coolest things I've heard of. Thank you. It's because normally these types of things, they're found at, like, they're like Oga's Canteen at Galaxy's Edge. You know what I mean? It's that kind of thing where it's okay. It's obviously the parent company, but it's different. This is just a guy with a dream and a passion, and he's putting it all together. So it's really cool.
And it's cool, the things that are going to be in there. And let's be real clear, even that's all great, but the food, brother.
It's a restaurant at the end of the day, right?
Wood-fired brick oven pizzas out there.
I have no doubt, man. I have no doubt.
It's going to be good in our area for sure, So.
Yeah, and now whereabouts in Texas?
So it's going to be located in Boerne, Texas.
Okay.
Which is a little outskirts of San Antonio.
I personally have family in San Antonio, so to make a trip, I will. Yeah, we'll talk about that offline. But I do. Yeah. And I was stationed at Fort Hood down in Killeen, so I lived there for quite some time. But no, that's awesome.
Well, I'd like to say on air, thank you for your service.
Oh, appreciate you, my friend. I do.
Yeah. My son's in the Coast Guard, Indiana.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good time. It was a good time, and it led me to Star Wars. So here we are.
It's weird.
It's weird how that works.
You never know, right?
No, man, you don't. That is a very good point.
So is that how you got through when the instructors are going through boot camp and they're screaming at you and yelling at you and spitting in your face? You're just thinking of.
Ben was telling me, man. Ben was over there in the corner, and he was just like, "Don't quit. Don't quit.
Yeah.
Just don't quit.
Don't beat this guy's ass." All right.
Right. Don't beat this guy's ass.
I know.
Like I could have at 18. I was a scrawny little thing at 18, man. But what else? What else is going to be in the restaurant? I've seen the Wampa. Okay, first off, what's a secret? What's not a secret? I know you want to do a big reveal.
No. It's okay. It's okay. There's still a lot of little things that people have no clue about. Nobody. But some of the big attractions, we are doing a life-size Jaws head.
Oh wow!
His name
Bruce.
Is
Bruce. Yep.
Yeah, Bruce. That's really cool. You know that.
I don't know how much of a movie buff you are. Probably 10 times more than me. But I've seen the main ones.
Okay, that's the only one I like is part one.
Okay, yeah, the rest are getting pretty ridiculous.
So now it's kind of cool because just happened Back to the Future 2. By the way, I know you guys love that movie, but I'm Back to the Future original. That's just period.
That's fair.
But the thing is though, it was funny seeing the Jaws 19 or whatever come out and get him. But so we're gonna have Jaws there. Yes, we do have up in the VIP. We've already built the floating floor where the mezzanine is, where the Wampa's going to be, and you'll have to go up into the VIP to see Luke being dragged because you won't be able to see. I don't know if I'm going to do a mirror from the ceiling or what I'm going to do yet, but everybody knows about the time machine, and we're doing a lot of life-size prop movie replicas. This Darth Vader being one of them. There's not a lot that I'm taking from my gallery here.
Right.
I'm taking a couple studio scale models, a life-size Cylon from Battlestar Galactica will be there, and E.T. maybe.
A lot of Spielberg in there, huh?
Oh yeah, there'll be a lot of Spielberg actually. You think your Jaws, you got your Back to the Future. It's like, man, I'm gonna have more of that. Because people are seeing Dark Side, they're gonna go in there and they're gonna see.
Right, expect an Imperial themed restaurant.
Yeah, exactly. It's really fun, all the stuff and the collaboration with a lot of the, I had Joseph Azar came up with the name Dark Side Brick Oven Pizza Company. He came up with Dark Side. I came up with the rest, but Dark Side, I was like, holy shit! I was so excited.
That's it.
I was going to dinner with my wife, and I kept calling Joseph back. I'm like, dude, because we were going to call it Boerne Brick Oven Pizza Company, And when he said dark side, I'm like, shit, that's it, And I was talking to Gabe. I was like, my attorney, and he's like, yeah, there's no infringements. You could do that, and this is what you got to. I'm like, no problem. That's what I'm doing. And then Jason Eaton came up with my logo design. He just was playing around and sent me this logo of, is it maybe slice of pizza, or could it be a Star Destroyer?
Right. Use your imagination. Which is it?
Use your imagination. But it's just a really fun collaboration with the viewers, and my friends, and it's exciting for everybody else because they're seeing it all come together. You know what I mean? So it's going to be a fun shindig when we open up. Yeah, and then it's going to be all of my inspired viewers that are faithful to us every Saturday night. And friends and family are going to be there. It's not going to be open to the public until that happens.
Good. No, and what are you guys looking at for an opening date?
We're shooting. I've been telling everybody March or April. That's what we're shooting for. So the place will be dried in. It's at an exciting time right now, what we're doing in there. But it'll be dried in the next 2 weeks, the building. And then the framers come in to start doing all the built-in shelves and putting up the walls and building the kitchen stuff. And, it slows down a little bit because then, you bring in AC, electrical, and all that good fun stuff. And the way we're going to light all the shelving and stuff to run off of one deal. But it's a learning experience, but it's not hard for me. What's hard is putting together, these, accurate DeLoreans and stuff like that.
The fun stuff.
But Richard Riley, who did my fantastic Wampa, it's the only one that in existence that I know of, especially that's that accurate, is doing the Jaws. So you can bet that it's going to be fantastic.
Accurate. What happened to old Bruce? I know he was out there for a long time, and
I'm not quite sure, but a lot of them have deteriorated.
It's been so long, yeah.
Yeah, but I know that they've had some restoration stuff, but where that one is in an archive or whatnot, I have no clue. I'm not real sure.
Yeah, I'm curious because I used to pay attention a lot about that, and I remember when the Backlot tour was still a thing, and it was still MGM Studios. I'm in Orlando, but out here, they had a lot, not the original, I'm sure, but they had a lot of that stuff, and I remember hearing that as a kid, and it's all gone now, but...
Man, what's up with all the Comic Cons that you guys, man? I've heard from Nilda and Eben. And
yeah, we're busy.
These people are like always going to cons, man. We get like one a year.
There's a network of us. It seems like there's a large portion of, obviously the community's infinite in size, but those of us that communicate frequently, a lot of us are in Florida, it seems like.
Yeah.
You're out in Texas, Gabe's in California, but there's a lot of us, and we're not that far apart. So, and there's a ton of conventions here, little ones, big ones, whatever. We just kind of meet up, and we do the Spice Runners Lounge, obviously, and we'll go from that to a con. So it's it's just it's fun that you can be within driving distance of these people and they have the same passion. So it's enjoyable.
Yeah, you tell me you live close to Eben?
I do, we're about 30 minutes apart. I was actually there 2 days ago. My family and his family got together, and I saw his collection for the first time in person.
Nice.
So it was cool.
Nice.
Yeah. No, the collections, man, that's it's become my thing. It wasn't originally. It was just the podcast and talking about and sharing Star Wars with people. And then I realized, all right, I'm going to start spending money on this. And it's a slippery slope, but man, it's so much fun.
Yeah, just make sure it's, and to those people that are watching that are just now getting into the collecting side of things, just collect what you like, right? What you love. Don't collect it because everybody else does. Don't collect it because it's going to be valuable. Collect it because it's something that you really enjoy yourself, because it's not going to be fun if you don't do that. And the rabbit hole that you mentioned, David, it's, me and Joseph laugh all the time, even Gabe, because we go down this collecting thing that, we find ourselves buying stuff that we wouldn't even normally, but we're buying it because of hype, because a lot of our other community buddies are buying them, and damn, you just got to be careful with that.
That's a slippery slope right there, and YouTube is horrendously guilty of that rabbit hole. It's an instigator of that. It's what's the next sideshow thing? What's the a lot. 1 in 10 things like I'd love to keep for a lifetime, but you see people, they're just flipping items to get the next item, and it's
crazy.
I see no point in that.
It's just some people, in their a respectful way to say it, it's the only way they have to, they don't have the money to.
It's only means.
yeah, so they're just, they're trying to stay within the community, and most people out there that are watching these things, they don't care if they're buying or selling, right? So, me and my collection, I've never once sold anything ever one
Wow.
thing. Not that I'm against it, but I just haven't. And it was funny because just the other day on the show, I just said if I ever do sell anything, I don't care how big or small, but if somebody wants to buy it, they're going to have to come and get it because I'm not shipping anything.
Oh my gosh, no! And the value is irrelevant in this conversation, but that's astronomical. I couldn't
Yeah.
imagine. I don't think there's quality enough shipping out there to get something intact to a
Oh, it's
destination.
scary. Oh, yeah. I know when I order a studio model, when Mike Salzo was sending me my blockade runner, it showed up not. I mean, there was a couple little things to like my buddy Joseph. He'd be calling me crying on the phone that this little tab broke off. I mean, I'm going to have to glue it back on. But because he panics about that kind of stuff, and I love it. I love it. I wouldn't change the way he is that way at all. I love it so much because he'll call me and he'll be like, I'm like, what's the matter? Just because you wouldn't believe it. I just got this and it's broke. I'm like, oh, dude, that sucks. He goes, yeah, I just sent you a picture. Take a look. And it's so minor and minute. I'm like, God dang it, Joseph.
Just get the glue out.
What the hell, bro? And it's just, I love him for the way he is.
That's attention to detail at
He's the
a
best,
serious
man.
level.
He's the best.
Yeah.
But so many people, Gabe's had bad experiences with getting stuff or it not even showing up. But yeah, when you're buying models and doing the stuff, like I go pick my shit up. You know what I mean? If it's the
probably the
Wampa
best.
or the Star Destroyer, the medical frigate, Jim delivered it from Florida. That thing
Wow.
was built in Florida and delivered.
Wow.
So yeah.
That's crazy.
But yeah, it's so scary. We were talking about that just the other day, like how people send their collections out, to get, to what is it called, AFA?
Yeah, authenticated, right?
Yeah.
All that, yeah.
And then you send a vinyl Cape Jawa and it ends up missing.
And you can't replace that. A lot
No,
of these
it's
things
not
are.
like, I don't care about the insurance. So I just recently picked up a Ralph McQuarrie EFX helmet, Darth Vader
Wow.
helmet, and that was like one of my
Most
Braille pieces
yeah,
that I
yeah.
had to have, and I finally was able to pick it up, and I was nervous wreck till they got here. I even chased the damn FedEx driver down because I knew that they'd go down dirt roads and stuff where we live, and he was all dusty. The box was on its side. I was so pissed off when they opened up the door because I was standing there, so they couldn't flip. It's upright. It says, this side up.
Right.
That some bitch was like upside down, but EFX did an amazing job packing that damn thing.
That's good.
There
That's
wasn't
good.
one crack because those things show up cracked in the neck area.
That's a frequent occurrence, huh?
Yes.
Man, and that is one of my favorite pieces. I love Ralph McQuarrie. Going back to that interest in art and yeah, man, that is one of my favorite designs. That's that original concept Vader. But man, that is shipping. Shipping's a whole nother hour and a half podcast by itself. But obviously we can't see the whole collection, and that is on YouTube. You do a full walkthrough. I've watched it myself. But how big is the collection? How big, the gallery? I'll use the proper terminology.
So the original gallery is 3,000 square feet. When we're done with the addition, it'll probably be about 4,700 total square feet.
That is truly awe-inspiring and just mind-blowing. Like, it's something that I have to see. I think right now I think of that and Rancho Obi-Wan. Those are the two places that are on my list.
Well, you guys come check us out. I think Rancho Obi-Wan's really cool. So
never been there.
Yeah. So but I mean, it's a different type of collecting there.
That's just, and Rancho Obi-Wan is just like not disrespecting them in any ways, but I know it's just like get as much Star Wars stuff in a place that you can. Like, it doesn't matter if it's a Pez dispenser or a model. This is different. This is a very respectful.
This is a different.
You know what I mean? And I want to clarify that because that is not how I intended that statement. But
No. And I think that honestly, everyone should visit Rancho Obi-Wan just because of the respect and what he's put into this thing. He's very highly respected. I respect the guy, and I've never been there.
Wow. Well, you've got your own at home, so it's fair.
Met him several times. tried to tell him a little bit about my collection and completely blew me off. And you got so many different collectors out there, you just never know. But
Well, that sucks.
yeah.
That does suck. I
And
don't.
he gets a lot of people that and me too. I get a ton of people that reach out all the time, and I do everything, as you know, David. I try to be as respectful as possible, but it's really hard, everyone, because I remember when I reached out to Gus Lopez, he was very good to me, and we're now friends, Robin Baccarat.
Right.
There's a lot of big Star Wars collectors out there, and when people try to rank, how big my Star Wars collection is, it's a big collection, but one thing I will say that stands out above any other collection out there, and that's what's so cool, because there's a few of us out there, is that it's unique, it's different. You're not gonna you can go many pieces and see a medical frigate or a studio scale Star Destroyer or life size Chewbacca,
Right.
But so that's makes it fun because you can see things other than the vintage,
It's
collection.
more like a museum.
Yes,
That's how I very much think that's a pretty accurate way of describing it.
that's
Like
right.
what I'll compare it to something, but what Disney kind of has with, at Hollywood Studios. I don't remember the name of it right off the top of my head, but where they have some of the various props and things in there, and you're walking through a very themed area. Like I'm looking behind you, I see Death Star. I see Vader. I see flashing panels. I see accuracy, the
Yeah.
nostalgia. That's like
Yeah.
you are sitting on a movie set, from my perspective, and
Thank you.
that is very unique. Obviously,
And
you
that's
cannot
what
get that at Rancho Obi-Wan.
that is the look I wanted, David. And there's a guy, Robin, that lives in Houston that we had recently on our show, and I've never been happy with my ceiling in here because we didn't do any texture on the sheetrock, so there's a lot. It's you can see if you most people that come in here they don't notice because they don't, you know what I mean. But I know it's there, so I'm gonna panel the ceiling, my own way with lights and stuff. But the whole initial concept of this build was, I got inspired by a guy, Jeff's collection, who lives in Colorado and has a huge vintage collection, one of the biggest in the world, period. And I was inspired by his first museum. That's what made me do it. But I wanted to not copy his. I wanted to do it my way. And now he's like looks at my deal like, holy crap, like I look at his. You know what I mean? So we all inspire. You know what I mean? So
It's not like a lot of areas out there where it's a kind of a competition, or
not
where it's
not
I'm better than you. No, and I
never.
get that.
I don't
It's
even I don't know that.
inspiration.
Excuse me for cutting you off. I don't know
No, you're good.
many people out there that in this community that are that way. To be honest with you,
I haven't met anyone. Truthfully, I really haven't.
Yeah.
You get more of the people that say rude things in the comments and
Yeah.
whatever YouTube that. But I've never gotten another collector or podcaster that's said like, "Hey, you suck for X, Y, and Z."
Well, what you need to do, David, if you get those haters out there, is just. I learned this from my mom, and actually, my wife Denise has really helped me with this because there's times I've wanted to I've written out a whole paragraph of what I'm going to say to this person.
Right.
I'm going to destroy them in that paragraph, and my wife's like, "Hun, don't do it. You've got that reputation out there. You don't want to." And I'm like, "You know what, babe?" And I hit that backspace, and I don't give them what they want. You know what I
That's
mean?
all they want.
Yeah, and it's I just when I did my first, it's got 60,000 views. I don't know, one of my first videos, and it's my daughter Haley in there. It's me and her, and how can you dislike something like
Right.
that? I mean, it's like my little daughter's in there. I mean, it's not like I'm, hey, look at my collection, ha ha ha. This is just like, hey, this is what I've done, but I'm not like. You know what I mean? It's just not.
Right.
There's nothing negative about this. So why are you putting something negative? I don't.
Right.
And those are the people that we have in our world, And
Oh yeah, I think that same thing happened to George Medina. I don't remember, but same thing. He had his kid in there, and yeah, same thing. But
Yeah.
it's
So
it's
you just
crazy.
gotta let that stuff go and just because don't let that stuff bring you down, dude. Because you're better than that, David. So,
Absolutely, man. No, that is wonderful advice, and I
Yeah.
appreciate it. I do.
of course.
Well, where can our listeners find you?
So if they want to check me out, absolutely, they can go to my Starkiller
Got the
77.
T-shirt for those
Yeah,
listening.
yeah. So Star.Killer77 on YouTube. And of course, you can find me and my buddy Gabe on Collection Wars. That's a fun show. We have industry guests on the show. We have collectors such as yourself on the show. Sometimes we'll have group chats. Argue on how bad Back to the Future 2 and Raiders Lost Ark, Lost Crusade. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's funny. Everyone knows that I am definitely the vintage guy, the original guy, because But that's why me and Gabe click so well. So yeah, you can join us every Saturday night, 9:00 Central, Eastern. It's 10:00. So it's a good time on Collection Wars. But yeah, I'm on Instagram as well at star.killer77, and just stay tuned because there's always something new popping up. Whether it's updates on the restaurant, updates on my studio scale collection, or a prop replica, or I just threw up there the other day. I went to Macy's and went into a Toys R Us for the first. That was pretty, brought back memories.
Right, and I didn't even know those exist.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. Did you see that on my Instagram?
I did. I actually saw it today. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, holy crap, man! I was like,
they're out there.
And then I saw those action figures, and they were like the vintage carded figure, and it brought back, because man, when I was little, I used to hit those Montgomery Ward's, Sears, all of those places, Toy Box, and it was Toys R Us, and then there was one called Kitty City, and Baby Toys, of course. And I would, JC, every single, I had at least 5 to 6 places in the mall to go to looking for, because all I could really afford were the figures at the time. So, I could go every Saturday and find me 1 or 2 figures,
Yeah, man, and it's the same way. I started off in the Black series, obviously far newer than that time, but same thing, man.
That's badass. The Black series.
It's what, for the money you can't beat it. For the money, there are far nicer things out there, and I'm starting to explore those dangerously, of course. But yeah, man, it's fun.
I can tell you, Black Series is not cheap. That can be expensive.
No, it can. But and back to lineage, I like that it's tied to Kenner. Hasbro bought Kenner, and that's cool. I think I like Kenner better personally, but it's not here anymore. So
yeah, and what's cool though is that Hasbro has really stepped up on fantastic details of the toys. I see that they're coming out with some of the Raiders of the Lost Ark. Budgets.
Yeah.
And a few of my friends out there are a little bothered by it because they think it's going to devalue, their original, but those aren't original. This is a chance for people that can't really afford to have the original vintage to have these in their collection, and it might mean it might just be all that they need to know is like when they were a kid, bring them back.
Right. That's how I feel with like the Hasbro helmets, all the Mandalorian ones and things like that. If you can't afford an EFX or name a company, there's a far cheaper, relatively accurate version that you can easily put on a shelf and be happy with.
I think Hasbro's killed it lately. They've really just, I've got a Hasbro Boba Fett, and I have a Hasbro Luke X-Wing helmet. I'm looking over there.
That one's valuable. That is a valuable one these days.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, it went up a lot. You can't find them. So
okay.
That's a much wanted.
That's cool to know.
There you go.
But yeah, so I had a good time weathering that one, and that was a good time doing that. So
no, for sure. Well, man, I don't want to take any more of your time, but thank you seriously so much for taking them to be here. I know you're really busy, so it means a ton.
Absolutely. I'm glad we were able to do it. You're a good dude. Keep doing what you do. And to all the viewers out there, thanks for taking the time to watch. And guess we'll see you guys in the next video.
Yeah. Thank you very much, man. And as always, may the force be with you. Always.
You as well.
You are not alone. There is hope. And remember, the force will be with you. Always.